Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, continues now. This is the broadcast for July 23rd in the year of our Lord 2025. This is Hour 2 of 2. Promoting God, family, and country, protecting life, liberty, and property, rejecting revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution, then we're in, because we follow the Prince of Peace. Lance Miliaccio with me, the host of the Big Mig broadcast. It's a video cast powered by truth. If anything, if liberty means anything at all, then it means you have the right to tell people what they don't want to hear. Lance, welcome back, sir.
Hey, great, Sam. Thanks. Happy to be here, of course, with the Liberty Roundtable listeners. As always, love the show, love the truth. Just more of what we do, huh?
Amen to that. Are you an Ozzy Osbourne fan? After a long battle with Parkinson, Ozzy died at 76 years old. The family statements reads, it's with more sadness than mere words can say. We have to convey that he passed away. He was with his family. We ask everybody to respect our privacy. Da-da-da. There you have it. Ozzy died. Lance?
Obviously my heart goes out to the family, but I was never really an Osbourne fan. I never really, I'm kind of an animal guy, and I never really liked the way that bat that flew up on stage, of course, drawn by the insects, that Ozzy decided to bite its head off on stage, and that seemed to be one of his claims to fame. I wasn't really a big fan of his music or his stage performance.
Yeah, there you have it. A lot better artists for sure, but no doubt an icon, and it's very sad that he died from Parkinson's, and some suffering went on there and everything else, and just very interesting, man. A lot of the icons that we know and grew up with, whether they were your favorite or not, gone. It kind of says an era is over to some degree. All right, Google's in the news. And Google, listen to this, Lance. Google removes nearly 11,000 YouTube channels they claim linked to China, Russia, and other nations. More than 7,700 channels deemed as propaganda were linked to China alone, writes the Epoch Times. You look at a headline like that and you go, wow, so we can't get rid of TikTok. Donald's going to keep that rolling. But then, hey, YouTube can just shut down 11,000 channels. Now, remember, I've always told you that you can't tell how many listeners you have. And I know people say, oh, yeah, you can, Sam. Come on. This is all digital. We can know. There's analytics everywhere. I'm telling you right now, I'm an IT guy for a living. Guy, I'm telling you, you can't and you don't know. And to say that you do know is an absolute lie, and the proof is in the pudding. How many of your listeners were on the 11,000 channels that just got shut down? Person A who wants to argue with me. How many of your listeners were in the 11,000 channels that got shut down? And the answer is you don't know, and you can't know, and you can't track it. And so people who say they can are literally lying to us, folks. And I try to bring this up, and then people are like, well, Sam, if you only understood technology. Okay, people. Good. Lance, What do you say to this? 11,000 channels.
Well, I got suspended on YouTube 2 different times. We haven't reopened our channel simply because it seems to be a waste of time. And all I've ever done is, the strikes I received were for putting out information from the CDC and VAERS, not even actually going into vaccine hesitancy. But at the end of the day, they didn't like what I had to say. They shut me down. This is standard for YouTube, right? At the end of the day, YouTube has been making a lot of people a tremendous amount of money for a long time. They've got an AI thing called the Threat Analysis Group. It's called TAG. And, of course, they say it's to combat coordinated influence operation campaigns. Now, this big wipeout did include a bunch of U.S. channels, too, but they said they wiped out China-linked channels, Russia-linked channels, and a bunch of other targeted regions like Iran, Turkey, Israel, Romania, and Ghana. This is a big enforcement action. Q1, they did a bunch of this. I don't think their AI is as good as they think it is. And if you get a strike or you get suspended, it doesn't even seem you get to a real person. It almost seems like the whole thing's automated, and trying to get a response saying, well, that was CDC and it bears government information. Why can't I put that out? They don't even respond once they decide to strike you because they wield a lot of power. But there is another step to this, Sam, that I think is really interesting. Did you hear about the RPM?
Give me more details. What does RPM mean?
Yeah, well, the RPM is their model for creators' revenue, right? It's a revenue per thousand
I understand,
views.
yes. Yep.
Which is earnings, right? Well,
Yes.
It turns out that along with this tag initiative, a bunch of big YouTube creators are stating that they've seen a massive drop in their creator revenue. Some are experiencing 40 to 80% decreases. Now, some of the potential causes for this, YouTube hasn't been very vocal, but my understanding is the economic recession and the global economic downturn, it's impacting advertiser budgets. They've got changes in advertiser spending that they have announced. They said that some of the large corporations are cutting back on spending on content creators, maybe because there's just too many of them. YouTube's changed their monetization policies, which is potentially affecting. They've got changes in ad traffic. So what this all means to me is YouTube making the right decisions? Are we seeing a general trend that people maybe aren't watching YouTube as much as they were?
I think that's one of the conclusions you can draw from it. I think a lot of the creators are very angry over this. But when you say 11,000 channels are gone, think about that term, 11,000 channels. And I don't know how many listeners or viewers or whatever you want to say the average channel had, but how many of those viewers or listeners, do you think that made rock stars out of some, etc.? Well, you and I are being shadow banned, and you and I, have experienced shutdowns and this and that. And to me, we ought to be able to create a lawsuit that simply says, how much have you harmed our business on these fake shutdowns and on these dishonest manipulations? And how many listeners, when people claim they have them, when you get rid of 11,000 channels, it's got to affect people's listenerships, right? And a lot of them are U.S. people. And the question becomes how much of it's really a threat by China. Why can't China have a channel and say what they want? Why can't Russia have a channel and say what they want? Why can't all these other, even say North Korea or Japan or Russia or Ukraine or Gaza? Why can't they have their own channel and say what they want to say? What they would say is, well, that's propaganda, Sam. In whose view is it propaganda?
Well, one man's propaganda is another man's truth, right? At the end of the day,
yes.
That's the problem, right? The powers that be are deciding what gets through to the masses and what doesn't. Too much truth, they cut you off. They'd rather have you watch these creators, and I've been saving a folder over on X. There's a folder I've got on there that basically is titled Fake Views. And what it is I've been tracking all these supposed big Twitch, big Kick influencers. And I've been watching the accounts that post about them and like, oh my gosh, look what iShowSpeed just did. Oh, Kay Sanat got in an argument. Now these posts are allegedly these are content creators and they're supposed to be wildly popular. And to me, it's like watching, and I've been trying to do the research. I don't spend a lot of time watching, but I go in there every once in a while to watch when they're live to see what they're spinning. And it looks to me to be kind of like retarded college dorm, low IQ content. That's what I would call it. And it's like a bunch of guys living in a frat house, acting like a bunch of morons. And what I think is incredible is these posts on X are allegedly getting millions and millions of views. And when I say they're stupid, I mean it's something like Kay Sanat goes to grocery store and almost gets into altercation with clerk. To me, and this is the dumbing of America, right? And YouTube's part of it because I never put out any fake content. George and I pride ourselves on really researching just like you. And if we make a mistake, we'll correct ourselves. But the powers that be are deciding that Sam Bushman is too over the target. Instead, let's promote this guy that's putting out content that's nonsensical and stupid. Like a lot of times they go into each other's rooms and they throw fireworks into the room, destroying the room, burning the carpet, burning the furniture. And they think this is supposed to be big news. And yet when Sam Bushman comes out and puts out a well-researched piece of content, oh, sorry, you just violated our policy, Sam. We're going to have to close your account. And the way they do it, what's incredible about it is that I believe that the system that's in place, right, that allows you to say, well, I don't think you guys got this right. Can you think it through? It doesn't matter. And they don't care how much time you put into your channel. 11,000 channels of content, that was millions and millions of hours of hard work for people. And what did YouTube decide? Boom, we're getting rid of you, Sam.
There's no adjudication either.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking about how YouTube literally shut down 11,000 channels. Now the Daily Wire has an article saying, hey, all the news outlets that lied to you about the Russian scandal in the first place, they're the ones saying, oh, Tulsi Gabbard's information is misleading. So there you have it. But I look at this thing and I go, wow, 11,000 channels. I wonder how many listeners or viewers that relates to. Because remember, they tell you that this guy or that guy or whatever has just thousands, millions of views. And I did this, I can't remember what this campaign's called. But they have this thing where people are basically sitting on their butt and they get pulled off of camera view, like by their ankles or whatever. And everybody thinks this is funny. And have you seen this, Lance? It's like a YouTube or a, phenomena on social media or whatever where they're doing this stuff. And I just look at it and I go,
I have not.
I don't even
This
understand this
it
stuff.
Just sounds
right?
just as idiotic as everything else.
But are they really getting these kind of views for this? They make it seem like they are, but I don't believe it. I'm just not
I had
buying
this discussion with my wife. But I'll tell you something. I had this discussion with my wife, Sam, that I have often brought her this and said, look at this post that got 5 million views. It can't be possible that people are this interested in this kind of, stupidity. And, she said, well, maybe it's the dumbing of America. Maybe, in fact, people's IQ and their attention span is so short now. They're so incapable of listening to something that's educational or educating themselves in any manner with any of the media sources. And they're just looking for this kind of neutral base of just stuff being streamed in front of them that they don't have to think about. And that was very frightening to me that's what she thought. Because, of course, her business is very social media driven. She's at IFBB Bikini Pro. She's got her non-invasive clinic here in Denver where they do laser therapy and all sorts of things. So she's on media a lot. I don't know if she's not right. Has America gotten to a tipping point that high IQ content is not only what's not promoted by the platforms, but in fact is downplayed? And is it they would rather have Sam shoot fireworks at Lance, why I'm butt-ass naked running away from you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're starting to see. And I don't believe it's really the will or the thoughts or the belief of the American people. I agree that to a great degree we've been propagandized for decades. I agree that to a great reality check, the American people are dumbed down to a great degree because when you withhold facts and information, it's hard to be educated. I believe we've been manipulated for a long time, but this, takes the cake. They literally haven't. I can't remember what this is. Liz, can you go look on my feed and see if you can find the term for this? I covered this like last week sometime, I think. But basically what happens is this is like a YouTube/social media phenomena where they literally have people sit on their butt and act like they're driving a car. And then what they do is they get pulled off the screen. Like yanked off the screen, and it's supposed to be funny, and there's all these bloopers about this stuff and everything, and they're literally like one toddler got like 16 million views, and a famous couple or whatever got like, okay, I woke up in a new Bugatti. Have you seen that new Bugatti? Have you seen this at all, Lance, what I'm talking about?
I have not.
Yeah, it's called I Woke Up in a New Bugatti. And literally what happens is they pull people off the screen. And then what happens is when they pull people off the screen, sometimes there's like bloopers. It doesn't go perfect. And then the bloopers are the ones getting it. So the I woke up in a Bugatti bloopers deal. And it's just the weirdest. I don't even understand these kind of things. Right? I don't even know how to respond to it. But these are the things that are getting views. And then we're not getting views, they claim. But yet, hey, we're being shadow banned and manipulated and shut down and all these things. And you got to wonder, how do they have listener counts? If you get rid of 11,000 channels or you get rid of 20 million fake accounts or you do this or that, it's got to affect real people and real accounts and real things, doesn't it? We can't pretend it doesn't. And I believe that under Donald's very nose, while Donald's winning millions from the fake news, you and I are suffering big, and there's nothing we can do about it, Lance.
I absolutely agree with you. I think the filtering of media, we know there was a controlled operation, as an example, on Twitter before Elon Musk bought it. We know that the Graphica, the CIA, Department of Homeland Security, many departments were telling and controlling what Jack Dorsey and the Twitter reign of terror. Listen, my account were suspended. I got them back when Elon Musk came on, but the suppression is still all over my accounts. There's still something in the back end or in the coding. Because, of course, I really just post predominantly about the show. I put up news articles and memes, nothing that violates any of the rules, but yet none of the posts get any sort of traction, even though here I am on the radio with you. I also have my relatively popular shows, the Big Mig Show, the Crypto Power Hour, the Global Finance Forum. They all get great views on Rumble. But yet my account's growth is stagnant on X. It grows everywhere else. I get many more views on other platforms. But that's my point, right? They are deciding through these platforms, and that's the trick of it is the American public doesn't recognize that. They don't know that everything that they're looking at is filtered. Now, to me, what I think is especially offensive about what YouTube did, how about the fact that they focus so much on international shows? How about all those people that were watching in different countries that count on YouTube for their source of news because their local news stations they know are corrupted by their own governments? Maybe these were some of the only shows where they could get the truth. They probably had to use VPNs to access them so they weren't being tracked by their own government. And now YouTube, boom, they're gone. So those 11,000 content creators are no longer in business. They might have been living in third world countries where they needed the income to feed themselves or their family. They worked really hard on their channels. They built them up. And now YouTube, sorry, threat assessment group, you're out of here. And that's the problem. I think this is the difficulty that truth-telling platforms. Now, I will say this. Rumble does not appear to be like this. I haven't seen them delete any channels, and I haven't seen them restrict anybody. They've never chastised me after a show or said, oh, sorry, we think your content may have violated the rules. Maybe Rumble is going to be the true turnaround. I don't know what to think at this point about YouTube, but I know this: I go there less and less and less, and that's got to be the reason that the content provider's revenue is being drastically reduced. Because if I'm going there less, how many other people are going there less?
Well, I think they're fair questions, and I think this is the kind of point that I'm making about this. All right, look in the folder, Liz. I got a little soundbite for this. I woke up in a new Bugatti. Listen to this, and it's just Bugatti. Listen to so what they do, Lance. If you want to do this on the internet and mirror this kind of psychosis, all you got to do is sit down on your butt, act like you're driving your new car, your new Bugatti, and then somebody will just, outside of the screen view will just grab your ankles and yank you out. And if you have a blooper about it, then you can go viral and get millions of hits. Listen to this song that they kind of sing while they do this weird, everybody wants to do this thing. Here it is. Listen to this.
I woke up in a new Bugatti. I woke up in a new Bugatti. Woke up in a new Bugatti.
Babe, I'm not that heavy.
I woke up in a new Bugatti.
There you go, and it's supposed to be this awesome video. This stuff's getting millions of views, Lance.
Wow, that made me really laugh. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
and I don't even understand how this can be real. And then he's like, "Oh, yeah. I'm not that heavy," and she's like, "Yes, you are." All I'm telling you is, I don't even understand that.
That's hysterical, Sam. I'm choking on my microphone. Yeah, and that's my point, right? It's the dumbing of America. If that's what gets millions of views, if those views are even legitimate, which I'm really questioning the legitimacy, then maybe that's the problem with our content. Maybe we're too highbrow. Maybe we need to go back to the old radio, Sam, where we have some wood blocks and we have animal noises, and you can just sit there on the noise board, and every time I say something, you can throw in like a goat noise or maybe some other kind of noise. Maybe we're making a mistake.
Anyway, I just don't even understand the whole discussion, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm telling you, that's a huge phenomenon going on, they claim. And so Sam, hey, he doesn't get any views. But, hey, this pull people out of the frame driving this new Bugatti thing is just rock star solid. We're being propagandized to the highest level. And what I'm afraid YouTube is doing is blaming it on the Chinese and the Russians and all the ne'er-do-well nations. But yet they're shutting down accounts like mine or shadow banning accounts like Lance's or all these different things. Next headline says CCP weaponizes the courts to silence critics, harm American interests. Congress basically is dealing with lawfare, left and right, folks. They call here's lawfare orchestrated by the Chinese regime, causes a, quote, chilling effect in the United States, witnesses say. The EpochTimes.com with this piece. So now you have this big scandal about lawfare, where the Chinese Communist Party using our laws against us in court and winning because of lawfare. Deep pockets from the communists, funded by our buying of all their products, Lance.
I mean, our legal system has got a lot of issues with it. Does it surprise me that the Chinese have figured out a way to manipulate it? No. Because, our own Department of Justice manipulates it. Our judiciary manipulates it. I will tell you this. I think that there's an ugly thing on the horizon. And when we come back from this break, I'm going to tell you about it. And it's got to do with lawfare and AI. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what that is. Liberty Roundtable will be right back with Sam Bushman. Of course, along for the ride today, Lance Miliaccio. Stay tuned. You're going to want to hear this about the laws of the United States and AI, baby.
Protecting your liberties. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. This is sentencing day for Brian Kohberger, with a judge expected to order him to serve 4 life sentences without parole in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students almost 3 years ago. Kohberger reached a plea deal that took the death penalty off the table. Wall Street made a strong start this morning following word of a big U.S. trade deal with Japan. It is, in the words of President Trump, a great deal, and Mr. Trump says it's not the last word.
We concluded the one deal, Doug, and now we're going to conclude another one because they're forming a joint venture with us in Alaska, as you know, for the LNG. So I said we'll all do that together with Chris. Is Chris here? I don't know. Chris, right? If you could set that up, Doug, it would be great. But they're all set to make that deal now, so I think it's good. This was really the one they had to make, and we're going to make a deal with Japan on the LNG in Alaska, right?
15% tariffs will be levied on Japanese imports, while Japan will open its markets to American cars and trucks and agricultural products, including rice. It's a victory for women in sports.
The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has barred biological men from competing in women's sports. The committee is citing an executive order from President Donald Trump. The order
Texas lawmakers meeting for the first time, addressing the deadly July 4th flooding that killed at least 135 people in the Texas Hill Country. Joint committee is expected to review local officials' handling of the flooding, as well as flood warning systems. State and county emergency response officials are scheduled to testify. Home sales slipped last month. Mortgage rates are high. Prices have hit unprecedented levels. Wall Street, the Dow up 196. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. As executive director of Turning Point USA, a national radio host, podcaster, husband, and father of 2, my schedule is about as crazy as it can possibly get. 2 years ago, I made the decision to take control of my health, and I chose PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition because I needed a plan that fit my hectic lifestyle. I travel a lot, and my schedule changes every week, so I need something simple. They customized a plan for my body and my schedule, and I quickly lost 30 pounds. Now I have the energy and focus to get through my busy day. PhD will help you too. They won't let you fail. Just give them a call, schedule your weight loss consultation, and see if their program is right for you.
So moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-226-5454. That's 800-226-5454. 800-226-5454.
I really don't want to talk about this, but I will. I'm just so mad. I didn't get asked to the junior prom, and it's raining, which means by the time I get to school, I'm soaking wet. Dad picked me up just after I left, and I was so mad I got out, and he said, wait, your mom said to give you this. I forgot my lunch money, and then I dropped it in the water, and I was late for history, and so at lunchtime I had to find something on John Stuart Mill, which of course our library didn't have, so I had to walk all the way down to the office to call my mom, and she found something on the internet and called me back. And Karen, she wouldn't even help me, and that's a whole nother story. But Dad helped me conjugate nouns or whatever on the way to the swim team workout, and then he read my history paper while I was in the pool, and of course I forgot the bibliography, so I had to do that with my mother when I got home, and it made me totally forget that I put my jeans in the washer that morning, and I hate it when they sit wet like that all day and smell like mildew, but my mom said she put them in the dryer while I was at the swim team, and I'm just not going to go to the prom, no matter who asks me. I just want to stay home with my mom and dad.
Family.
And just hang out.
Isn't it about time?
Unless Dustin asks me.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Welcome back to Liberty Roundtable Live, of course, with your host, Sam Bushman. And, of course, along for the ride today, myself, Lance Migliaccio. Tip of the spear, we're bringing it to you like we always do on this show, the truth and nothing but the truth. I mentioned before we took the break that one of the big things that's at the forefront and maybe a real problem for the DOJ and the judiciary is AI. I'm seeing a lot of people starting to use AI in their legal cases. And what's happening is LexisNexis has a version. You can use DeepSeek, you can use Grok, you can use ChatGPT. Those platforms are getting more and more sophisticated. And what we're seeing is a pattern and history of abuse, in my opinion. We're seeing a judiciary and a legal system that has been weaponized against the American people, I believe, for a very long time through their ignorance. Well, ignorance is no longer an issue. As an example, Elon Musk's over at Grok has been uploading every single piece of case history for all federal, state, county, cases, all the replies, all the motions, all the actions taken. And it's allowing regular people that don't have a legal education, to equal the playing field, right? They're leveling the playing field. It's an opportunity for people that don't really have that kind of an education. And MIT had a study recently, Sam, where they said that legalese was intentionally made complicated so that the average person wouldn't have the ability to understand it.
It's criminal,
and I think what's really
Lance,
interesting
is what it is, but I don't see anybody doing anything about it.
And that's the thing. I think what we're going to start to see is some serious research. And that people are going to start finding that many times the judiciary, as an example, sua spontes on behalf of the government, which they're not supposed to do. They're supposed to be an unbiased party. And what I mean by sua sponte for the audience is that the judge puts in new arguments or new case law that say that you're in there and you're defending yourself as an example from a criminal action. Your defense counsel files their motions and replies. The prosecutor files his motions and replies. And the judge is supposed to neutrally determine by what's been presented in the court who the winner is. But what they're finding in AI is that these judges are regularly arguing on behalf of the prosecutor when they didn't argue correctly, or when they didn't use certain case law that should have been used, and the judge says, oh, well, here's an opportunity to shut down the defendant and his defense counsel. That's not supposed to happen. And that is a pattern.
Well, and that's where the judge...
It's not just one or two cases. It's
that's
every
where the
single
judges,
case.
Lance, often say, too, I am the law. Okay? And you saw Anthony Fauci say that. I am the science. I am the law, these judges say. And so instead of looking to the law as it really is as a body of reality and looking at past court cases or looking at the law as it stands and the way it currently reads, judges basically say, I'm the law, and if a prosecution wants to go down a certain road and I validate it, then how dare you oppose this? You have no right or authority. That's really where a lot of this ground is being made to pervert what happens in the courts, right?
No doubt. But I believe that AI is going to start to even level the playing field. I think it's the fly in the ointment. I think more and more of these cases are going to come out, and people are going to start running the responses from the courts. They're going to run the prosecutors' motions or reply briefs through. And what's going to happen is they're going to start to find that the prosecutors are lying, they're manipulating the law, they're misrepresenting the law, and they're going to find the same thing about the judiciary. I'm going to tell you that I bet you over the next 24 months, there's going to be a big trend that's going to start to happen and a big movement, and we're going to see more press about it. Now, is it going to fix the system? Probably unlikely. But I think you're going to start to see more and more information getting posted on social media and in news cycles saying that, look at this. This is what the judiciary has been doing. Look at this. This is what prosecutors have been doing. I think they're going to get outed. And, at least I hope so. I don't know if it'll change the system.
Well, I think they'll get outed in the media for sure. They'll get out into the media for sure because the media loves scandal. What they won't be is outed enough to go to prison. So what we'll do is we'll out this a little bit slowly to where nobody gets too excited. We'll let the air out of the balloon. We won't pop the balloon, don't you know? But we'll do this kind of carefully and strategically to where everybody can be super incensed, super frustrated, super angry, but nothing will really happen to anybody. And that's what I kind of see is kind of the pattern that they've been going with. All right. U.S. House of Representatives last week, I think it was, introduced what they call Crypto Week, focusing on legislation relating to stablecoins, digital assets, and CBDCs.
CBDCs.
CBDCs, you know.
Yes.
And it's very interesting how this all went down. Lance is a crypto expert, does his own crypto show weekly. Tell people where they can get that and then break down what happened last week, will you?
Yeah, we have the #1 crypto show on Rumble. It's called the Crypto Power Hour. It's Wednesday at 3 p.m. and Fridays at 3 p.m. We actually took a break this Wednesday because George, my co-host, has got himself a flu bug. He's pretty sick at home, sweating it away. So we actually are skipping today's show, but you can catch us next Friday at 3 p.m. But listen, Crypto Week was a big deal. It went from 14th to the 18th. At least this is the title they gave it. A lot of people believe it was a pivotal moment for cryptocurrency regulation. I think there was a lot of important things that came out of it. They passed 3 significant bills: the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and of course the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. Listen, Republican lawmakers were really excited about it because they finally got something. They felt they got something done. What I think what really was important about this is we've now got some sort of a federal regulatory framework. And I don't believe it's a complete framework. I think it's a partial framework, but it concerns digital assets because up till now, we had to worry about people like Gary Gensler and the SEC impacting the crypto market in the United States because they were trying to misapply laws. They were trying to take, stock laws and apply them to crypto. And of course, without a real regulatory framework, it leaves a lot of uncertainty in the market, a lot of instability. And of course, with instability and uncertainty comes a lot of fear. So, the big plan for this administration, Sam, is Donald Trump's, campaign promises. He wants to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. And I think there's a lot of victories within this. I think there are some concerns. And I think what we're going to see here is more legislation is going to be needed because this is just the basic infrastructure. It doesn't cover everything.
I guess they had a bill, H.R. 1919. That's the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act. It would prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing a CBDC or anything substantially similar under any other name or label. Did that pass?
Yes. So all those acts, the Genius Act, I think, passed 308 to 122. 102 Democrats joined Republicans on that, which is a shocker. The Clarity Act passed 294 to 134. And, of course, the act you're asking about, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, passed 219 to 210 with only 2 Democrats supporting. So the Democrats were anti to that. Listen,
so
I
that
don't
means
like
we're not
going to
get a digital currency then? Is that what that means?
I think what it means is they don't want to give the control of the digital currency to the private institution, the Federal Reserve Bank. Because the Federal Reserve Bank has been publicly saying they don't want to be involved in digital currency. But my understanding is behind the scenes, they're salivating with the opportunity. Of course, that would give control of our money once again to a private institution.
Well, here's the point. Americans do not need and do not want a central bank digital currency. It's being pushed on us because it become an interest of public control. In other words, it's not about freedom it's about control. And in my opinion, the digital currency as the only currency will be disaster, especially if they mix it with the Chinese, I don't know what you want to call it, credit file, social credit scoring. You put social credit scoring with the digital currency, and pretty soon Lance and Sam won't have any money.
Yeah. Well, of course, a social credit score allows them to turn off the spigot as they want. They can limit what you can buy. That's what the Chinese use it for, right? They use it to control their people. You go over to a vending machine and you don't have a good, social credit score. Boom, you can't even buy a beverage out of the vending machine. So, yeah, and of course, that's the plan, right? I think that's part of it. But let's face it, decentralized finance by its nature is not supposed to be controlled. The idea is by using all these nodes and having it be global infrastructure, the idea is so that a central bank doesn't have control. You don't want, so, let's talk about the CBDC Surveillance State Act for a minute. That act prohibits the Federal Reserve, of course, from issuing a central bank digital currency, which would be a government-backed digital dollar. Critics argue that CBDC could enable government surveillance and control over personal finances. And I think that's the important part, Sam. We'll come
Hang
back
tight, Liberty Roundtable live in seconds.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcast at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
All right, back with you live. Lance Biliacho, Sam Bushman on your radio. So are we going to get a digital currency, you think? Are we going to have a government-backed digital currency? I think we're going to go there. I don't like it. I think it's good that Congress has kind of voted against it for now, but somehow they'll be backed into it by a crisis of some kind. They'll create an engineered crisis, and eventually they'll take us there. It's how they basically get everything done. They take us to war, or they take us to meltdown mode, and people want to trade their security, and they lose security and liberty, Lance.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. A digital currency would give them total control, which means less control for the American people. And I've never really liked it. I've never liked the Federal Reserve from the get-go. Anybody that's read It Came from Jekyll Island kind of knows what I'm talking about. The point of the matter is that at least this act alleges they're going to stop it. Now, I agree with you. There's always been a workaround. And with the the Federal Reserve Bank having its claws into so many political officials like they do, look at what they just did with the new Federal Reserve building. It's frightening, right? It's supposed to be $2 billion, which I don't even understand why they need that palace, but there they are. They spent another, I think it was supposed to be 1.7, 1.8. Now they've spent 2.5, and then somebody wanted an inspection, a walkthrough inspection, and the Federal Reserve refused. And that's a lot of people are confused. They don't understand why Donald Trump is unable to fire Powell. Why they can't?
Well, he's not hold on. He's not unable to fire Powell. He's unwilling, Lance.
I don't believe he has the legal authority, even as president of the United States, to fire
Andrew Jackson
Powell.
did it. Andrew Jackson, as the former president, literally did those things.
But was the Federal Reserve back then what the Federal Reserve is now?
No, of course not.
That's my question.
But he routed out the bankers.
It was a different institution.
The president can do it again, though. There's no authority for that to even exist, constitutionally speaking. So there you have it. Anyway,
well, they're authorized by federal statute.
That's what
it's
they
a private
claim,
entity
yes.
authorized by federal statute. I did a bunch of research about this last week, and I don't believe that if Donald Trump tomorrow said, I'm firing Powell, that the Federal Reserve or Powell has to listen. That's why you
all he's got to do is arrest Powell for fraud.
Reserve.
Hold on. All he's got to do is arrest Powell for fraud, creating money out of thin air. It's fraudulent. It's counterfeiting against the United States, and it must stop. And I don't care if you have a charter by some group that allowed you to do it or not. You have no authority to commit fraud on the United States consumer.
I absolutely agree with you that if he took that tact, he could. But if he doesn't take a tact like that, just on the face value of Powell, who should have lowered interest rates months ago, and he's doing it because he doesn't like Donald Trump, of course, which is impacting the United States and its people. If you just take it on the face of where it is right now, can he walk into the Federal Reserve and say, Powell, you're fired? And without anything that you just described, I believe the answer is no.
Yeah. And that'll be debated. What we need is Congress to back the play. We need to realize that the $37 trillion of debt we're all in is fraudulent debt. Hey, this group literally has supposed authority against the supreme law of our land. And just so you know, whenever something conflicts with the supreme law takes precedence, ladies and gentlemen. But these people have got the authority to then print a $100 bill. Cost them maybe 10 cents to print it. I don't know the latest number, whatever it is. And then they literally write on its face that it's worth $100. So they've ripped us off on a value there. Then they charge interest on top of it. You couldn't get more fraudulent than that. And I don't care who pretended to authorize it. There's no authority to do so. It's been a fraud for the last 100 years. Now, I had a dear friend. His name is Hans Anderson. And in the early 80s, he found himself in charge of a federal grand jury, a legitimate one. And he decided he was going to indict the Federal Reserve. He indicted the Federal Reserve. You want to know what the judge did? He threw it out and said we had a runaway grand jury. Wow. They didn't look at the case or the courts or the grand jury or anything. The judge just simply overlooked it. That judge should have been impeached and arrested for criminal activity. But at the end of the day, that's what we're all facing. We're all facing the fact that we're criminal. Latest headline says, docs now prove that the Biden DOJ worked overtime seeking a federal hook to investigate parents at school board meetings. Joshua Arnold over at WashingtonStand.com with the details. Newly revealed internal communications from the U.S. DOJ shows, in, quote, full technicolor, how the Biden administration weaponized law enforcement against their opponents, even when their opponents were just simply trying to make a difference at a local school board meeting. So here's the point. More allegations, more evidence of fact. Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, whoever, I don't know, doing nothing. Why don't they move to arrest these clowns then? Whoever did that, whoever weaponized this department against the people, okay, they have docs. Who did it? Well, the Biden administration. Fine. Who? Joe? Arrest him. Joe's agents, AutoPen agents, or whatever, arrest them. Okay, why are we just hearing about all these crimes? Every day there's a new crime released, new docs, new evidence, new facts, but nothing happens, Lance. I don't even care about these things if nothing's going to happen. Right?
I mean, it goes on and on and on. I've said this many times on my own show, Sam. You know, we hear a lot of stories, right? We hear subpoenas, we hear, we're going to form a committee, we're going to investigate, and then nothing happens. I mean, it's been proven now over and over again that all these agencies have weaponized themselves against parents, against regular people in the United States, but yet there aren't any consequences. That's been one of the big arguments from everybody. Where are the consequences? That's what we want. Great that you found something out, but when are people going to face consequences for their actions, Sam?
I know we've talked about this till we're blue in the face, but I just kind of find this fascinating. But while that's happening, Trump's winning a bunch of money. Trump made it sound like a lot of us could win money on libel and slander lawsuits, but none of us are able to do it, just Donald. So the headline says an extra $20 million. Trump rebels, I don't know, in $36 million settlement for, quote, fraud and deceit by 60 Minutes on CBS. All the other mainstream clowns that are put on notice. World Net Daily, Joe Kovacs writes this, and they basically say, hey, Donald just won another $36 million. Aren't you happy for him, Lance?
You know, it's interesting that you bring this up. The other day I put a post up on True Social. I said, you know, maybe the next time Donald Trump wins money, he should go ahead and do an event at Mar-a-Lago for all the influencers and all the shows that supported him for this election. And then he should divvy up the proceeds, the balance of the money that wasn't spent on the party, and allow those shows to grow. Because nobody's supporting alt media. All they're doing is supporting the left. They never support the right or neutral media, right? Because that's not how the game works. Because at the end of the day, I never see any of these lawsuits. I never see Donald Trump tell his lawyers to turn it into a class action. It's always about me. And I'm a big supporter of Donald Trump. But I think there's a time when you have to call a spade, Sam.
No question about it. And what I find interesting about this is they say that the extra, the $36 million or all this extra money is going to go to the Trump library. And my response is this. When 60 Minutes on CBS committed fraud and deceit, did they do that against Donald Trump? Or did they do that against the American people? In other words, is this Donald's money or our money? Lance?
You know, my take is,
I think it's our money.
The American people's money. I
That's right.
agree.
Because otherwise, Donald Trump, I mean, sure, he's a candidate and all that. But really, by manipulating Kamala Harris's answers, that relates directly to the election. And that relates directly to what we, the people, can understand about what's going on in the world or whatever. I feel like I was defrauded by that false release by these clowns. But see, I'm not getting a penny. Only Donald is.
Yeah.
Should we sue Donald as a class action and say,
point,
hey, we
right?
need a piece of that pie?
I've kind of said that about the Department of Justice. Isn't that exactly what the situation is? That it seems like their focus is everything that impacted Donald Trump. I don't see them investigating the Security Technologies issue. I don't see them investigating issues that I would think are important to the American people. I don't see disclosure of stuff that the American people want disclosure on. Their focus is everything that impacted Donald Trump.
There you have it.
For me, it seems relatively one-sided.
And I think that the American people deserve a piece of that pie. We've all been defrauded. I think somebody ought to file a class action lawsuit and say, I appreciate Donald got $36 million. What about the rest of us mere Americans who got defrauded too? But see, nobody will help me put together a class action lawsuit like that. And I don't have any money, so therefore nothing will happen. But Uber now is making a big change. The Uber car riding service or whatever you want to call it. They are basically adding a capability to their server, letting women riders match with women drivers. TechCrunch with the piece. Uber will soon roll out its women preference feature in the U.S., starting with Detroit, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So there you have it. What do you think of that, Lance? You feeling good now?
I don't understand the preference. I don't understand the preference. I don't know. I don't know what it should be. For me, I'm unsure. I don't know.
Well, women are saying, I want a woman driver. I want to be safe. I don't want to be raped or anything else. And so I want a woman driver. My likelihood of being safe with a woman driver is greater. I think there should be free association. I think I should be able to ask for any driver that I want. I want a good-looking female driver that's like a news babe that's caught up on all the conservative information. That's what kind of driver I want.
That's it.
What do you think?
You get it. Exactly.
I'm just saying,
I
think
like
free
that
associations here, ladies and gentlemen, and I think it's good for Uber to give people a choice. After all, isn't agency the key to liberty? Just saying. All right, thanks for being alongside for the ride. For Lance Miliaccio and George Ballantine, we pray George gets better. The Big Mig, available on weekends on your radio and around the clock on X and Rumble. God save our republic.